Alrighty. Oh, so I was actually just checking my glasses out before I press record. So welcome into my living room, Lorraine.
Thank you.
Really happy to finally have this opportunity to have a heart-to-heart with you, because we've been talking about it for a long time. And I've just really come to feel a sense of sisterhood and affinity with you in over this year particularly. And I'm really excited to hear what you have to say and to just explore some themes with you. So just for those of you who don't know, who are going to be watching this, Lorraine Taylor is a yogi. Would you call yourself a tantrika or not, Lorraine? Is that?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Yeah. I know you as a teacher of the most beautiful heart-centered form of yoga, and I know you specialize in offering beautiful teacher trainings for women. So of course there's instantly an affinity there, because a lot of my work is with women too. Anyway, let me stop talking for a minute and introduce yourself.
Well, I've been studying yoga since I was 21. And that's taken me around the world. So I was born in England, but I've been traveling since 17. Actually, I left home and just had this incredible desire to travel, to be in different countries, you know. So as soon as I could leave home, even though I had a really lovely family, I just wanted to go and live abroad. So I went to live in Paris to begin with, and then sometime in Geneva.
Did you speak French? Did you just go?
Oui.
Just
I speak French. Yes, yeah, I do. I learned because I had a French boyfriend who didn't speak English, and that was it. I was with him for about 2 years, and so that was the best way to learn. I highly recommend it.
Wouldn't
And
say no.
to be in the country as well, you know, I think it's really important. Like I had to go to the shop and order in, you know, French, speaking French all the time. So I really, learned a lot of French, and I've also forgotten a lot of French. I can still understand, and then I go to speak and I'm like, oh oui. and then it seems to all the foreign languages that I know seem to be in the same compartment in my brain. So I'm like doing half French, half Thai, and a bit of Spanish. Like, oh, Jesus. So I'm not very good at separating the languages, but yeah, I learned French. And then I traveled and studied in India. I studied in ashrams in Australia, Satyananda ashram in Australia. I was in and out of there for about a year.
Can I ask, Lorraine, what got you into yoga in the first place? Because 21 is young, and you know, like with this, what was it that?
Yeah. So I've always been exploring the body. Like I've always been into dance or gymnastics or ice skating, or like I was in sport at school. I've always loved to do things with my body. And when I was I used to do ballet when I was about 11, 12, 13. And the ballet teacher said to us in our class, ladies, stand up straight. Stand up straight, ladies. Ballet teachers speak like that, you know, stand up straight. You're all standing like ducks. You're all going to be in a wheelchair by the time you're 30. And it's so interesting, like what goes into your head. And that stayed in my head. And when I got to about 21, I was like, oh, the wheelchair. It's in 9 years, you know, and I just remembered it and it was frightening. So I thought I've got to do something that's really good for my body. And I'd heard about yoga and I went along and I went to the class. It was an Iyengar class in London. And I was really baffled. I was really quite like, this is rubbish. this, this is so boring, you know, after doing dance and gymnastics and ice skating, which is all very entertaining. Yeah. I was like in a triangle shape for, you know, wherever, 2 minutes. And I was like, not impressed.
Really thank you for saying that, being honest. Yeah.
And especially, you know, they have blocks and straps and things in Iyengar. It's not my favorite style of yoga because it's quite static. So it was at the end though, at the end when I came out of the last position where you lie down and you're in Shavasana, in corpse pose, lying down on the back, and then for 10 minutes. And I got up and I was like, oh, I feel really happy. And I don't know why, like what, that class was really rubbish and I feel really good. I don't get it. And so I knew there was something in it. I was like, there's something here. I could tell there was some mystery, like why was this making me feel so good? And I wanted to find that out. So I kept pursuing it. And then I got interested in all sorts of like books and feng shui and self-help, and like the whole kind of spiritual self-help world opened up to me. Yeah. And I was also I was working in London in a career, and I was in the music business, and that was I loved it because it was creative and I love music. And it was also, you know, the time of amazing parties and beautiful evenings and discos and raves and ecstasy and all of that. And I remember just going, wow, I didn't ever think I could be this happy. I remember one night at a party just going, wow, this is amazing. I feel so high, so in bliss. And it was after that I thought, I know I can get that naturally. Like, I know that exists. I know I can, like, that is. So all these little things came into take me in that direction. And I ended up leaving the music business when I was 26, and I was in London exploring all these different methods of meditation, spirituality, yoga, and all of that. And then at 26, I was like, I'm done. I'm off. I'm going to live this, you know. Wow. And I went to Australia, and I wanted to spend time with the Aboriginals, and that's why I went to Australia. Because we had a band at work. We were doing tours for bands, and we had an Aboriginal band who had when was it, 1996, they had like a top 10 hit with this song called Treaty. Yothu Yindi, the name of the band was, and they made like a dance version out of it. And we were managing them, and I was watching the video one day in work, and it was on this deserted beach, and I was just like I was so over London, so many people, you know, all the craziness and everything. I was like, I just want to go to that beach and be on my own. It was like white sand and blue sea. I want to go into nature. I want to explore different cultures. And so I got on a plane and left everything, left my job, my partner, my house, my everything, sold all my stuff, and went to Australia. And I ended up, spending time. I was living with the Aboriginal people for about a couple of months. Wow. And it was amazing, hunting with the women and at ceremonies, and it was, incredible.
How did you you know, gain reception like into that community. I would have thought there might be some barriers to white Western women just coming in there and living with them.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you can't just go and turn up and yeah, go and live with them. But I was in Darwin and I met a guy who was recording bands, Aboriginal bands. And because I'd worked in the music business, I got to know him. My friend introduced me and I said to him, please let me, he was going to do a festival in Arnhem Land, which you need a permit to get into Arnhem Land. You can't just go. That's the land of the Aboriginal people. So I said, please take me with you. This is why I've come. I've come to spend time with the Aboriginals. So he said, okay, you can be my roadie. So I was like carrying the guitars and packing the van and unpacking the van, and you know, I was just doing anything to join him. And then when we got to this little island, a tiny little island off the north coast of Australia, there was one female, I think she was Australian, English teacher who was there for the kids, and everybody else was Aboriginal apart from me, her, and this guy. And she had been there for a year or so, and she knew all the women, and she made a bond. And so I just, you know, was in her shadow, really. And we both went on this trip, I'll never forget it, hunting long-necked turtles and fishing and sleeping on the beach. And yeah, it was quite something.
Wow, what an experience. What did that teach you? Like, what did that open for you?
Yeah, I just knew that there were, you know, I was born in Liverpool. I was born in a city, and you just know there's more to life than this, you know. It was like, I know there's magical things happening out there, and I want to explore nature. I want that connection to nature. I want to see what everybody else is doing, and actually I remember the line that I told my dad, because I went back up to Liverpool to say goodbye to them, and he said, what, you're leaving your job? Because that was my career. I've been in the music business for like 7 years. And I said, yeah, Dad, I'm going traveling. And I was excited. And he said, why are you leaving your job? This is crazy. And I said, well, I'm not happy. And he looked at me and he said, Lorraine, no one's happy. And I said, they are. I know they are. I know there's happy people out there, and I'm going to go and find them. And my mission was to go and find people who were happy and find out what made them happy.
Oh.
Yeah, I was pretty young. I was like, I'm going to find out what really makes, what gives peace, what brings, you know, contentment.
Oh. Gosh, wow. So you've been going like against the grain of the received way of how one should live for a long time. You know,
Yeah.
wow, I didn't realize all of this. I didn't know this. Is like such a revelation. This is amazing. So were you already teaching yoga at this point, or was it just still like your own practice?
No, I was just studying when I could, when I was wherever I was. I'd join a yoga class, and then when I went to Australia, that's where I really went deep into staying in an ashram and that whole way of life, which is 24 hours a day yoga, and all the different parts of yoga, you know, not just postures, but yoga nidra and bhakti yoga, kirtan, meditation. And it was amazing. We did all the cleansing practices, all the kriyas, you know, the salt water up the nose, vomiting salt water, all of that, and karma yoga, you know, cooking in the kitchen and cleaning the toilets. And it was like a real, yeah, in-depth yoga experience in Satyananda Ashram in Australia.
Was there a guru there, or how was it organized?
It was, I don't remember there being a guru there, but there were swamis, lots of swamis. Everybody was dressed in orange, I think. And I wasn't. I mean, I wasn't a swami, so we were just in normal clothes. But they were very, very dedicated, and it interested me. I was like, wow, I just want to live like this. Like I almost signed up to the 3-year program in the Bihar school in India, where they have like a degree. You can go and do a yoga degree for 3 years in Bihar, and like you're just in the ashram for 3 years. And I was like, I want to do that. I just don't want to live this kind of normal Western life anymore. And I didn't end up doing that. I went in a different route. And what did I do then? I went back to England for a little bit, and then I moved to Thailand, which is where I am now. And I've been here ever since 2000, year 2000. So it's 20 years.
Wow, I didn't realize you've been there that long.
Yeah.
On the same island, or?
Yeah. I know, it's quite funny, isn't it? She's been on this tiny little. No, I lived on the opposite island for half the time, and so yeah, pretty much between just two islands,
Wow.
Koh Samui and Copenhagen. Yeah.
So was it? I mean, now I was in Copenhagen. God, I think it must be like, I hate to say this, maybe even 5 years ago now. 4 years, 5 years. Gone too quickly. And of course, now I didn't really like. It only came into my awareness around about then, or like a few years before that, as this hub for yoga, for tantra, for basically anything personal development, new age, you name it. Copenhagen's got it, right?
Yeah.
Was it like that when you first went there?
Yeah, I mean, my experience was a little different because I went to the sanctuary, which is a famous resort with yoga and fasting and all of that, which was actually, I mean, in 2000. That's where I ended up, and the movie The Beach was modeled, they say, from the sanctuary. And so I basically lived in a community that was like the beach. It really was. It was like that movie. And I was there for 2 years, where I met my husband. So I married a beautiful Thai man who is from that beach. His family own that land that the sanctuary is built on. And we had our son. We had Finn, my son. So then I left the crazy mad community of yogis and crazy spiritual people, and went to live on Koh Samui, which is more touristy, more of a different type of traveler, like families, and it's got more schools and hospitals, and I wanted things like that. As it's funny because as soon as I gave birth to Finn, I was always like this brave, crazy kind of traveler, and I was parachuting and scuba diving and doing all these things to push my boundaries. And then as soon as I had Finn, I was like, oh, where's the nearest hospital? Are we safe? Can we have life jackets on this boat? I suddenly changed into like this different person, which is Mother Nature making sure that you keep that baby alive, So we lived there for 7 years on the other island, and we opened up a place called the Yoga Cafe in a sweet little fisherman's village there, which we had for 4 years. And it was a groovy community center with yoga and dance and food and natural therapies. And me and my husband ran it. He did the cooking and I did the yoga classes. And we had beautiful nights with movies and food and salsa and all sorts of fun things. Yeah.
And were you at that point teaching what you teach now? Had that sort of developed, or?
Yeah, good question. I was actually at that point when I first opened it, I was teaching a more feminine flow vinyasa style. I'd studied with a woman called Shiva Ray, who's a big name, a big American teacher. And I loved, because of the dance background that I had, I loved the more flowing style. And she did a lot of creative sequences and used amazing music. So it really captured my heart at that point in my life.
Yeah.
And then I made up a lot of sequences and a lot of sequences and a lot of sequences and a lot of playlists. And then at some point I was like, you know what, I'm sequenced out. I just want silence. I want one sequence. I don't want to ever have to think of another sequence again, you know? And it was just a turning point where I went from like being, yeah, I wouldn't say it was all superficial movements on the outside to look good. It wasn't, it felt good. And it was a beautiful flow of feminine style yoga with, you know, with grace and beautiful music. But the silence actually, which is typically more kind of a masculine practice, was balancing both, you know, those inside of me, the masculine and the feminine. When I came to the silence, I went a lot deeper. Like I went on a journey really, really inward in yoga, and it changed my whole life and my whole practice. Yeah, so I started to, and I never ever wanted to do Ashtanga yoga because I didn't want to. I was a gymnast before, and I had no desire to be flexible because I'd already been flexible with dance and gymnastics. So that wasn't a goal. I could get my legs behind my head. I could do handstands and all of that. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to find peace. This was my big thing. I want to find peace. I want to be free. I want to be content. I want to, you know, discover myself really. So when I met Ashtanga and it was silent and I was just listening to the breath and going through the movements, it really transformed something deep. Yeah.
Oh wow. No, I've got the same thing about Ashtanga, so this is really interesting for me personally as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you go to Ashtanga, they're all pushing and it's fast and it's, you know, and if you slow it down and breathe really beautifully and listen to the breath and modify, you know, so you don't have to do those crazy contortionistic poses, then it's amazing. It's like this slow, like graceful dance. It's very beautiful. Yeah, with the right attitude, it's really beautiful. And so that practice really drew me in and started to, it's very detoxifying. So the primary series is about detoxifying the internal organs. And I found that I just couldn't eat any rubbish. I couldn't eat any chocolate. I couldn't drink red wine occasionally. I know, I was horrified. I was like, oh, I don't want this. So yeah, I was like, but powerful. I could see how powerful how it worked, you know, very quickly as well.
Right.
And not only detoxifying the physical body, but all the levels. So I found that my mind was purifying and the emotional body was purifying. And I was suddenly able to see the bigger picture, where before I've been stuck in problems or situations with people and not really understanding what was going on. Suddenly I was like, I get it. Oh, okay. I see. I could see more deeply the
Wow.
situations in life, which was very interesting for me. Yeah, I love that.
It's really beautiful to hear you talk so expansively about yoga and all the different strands and lineages and approaches that you've experienced and then integrated. And actually, I'm just realizing, although we didn't set out with this intention, you
Yeah.
know, um, really in a way, what I feel you're speaking to and have been speaking to a lot is yoga as a woman and the feminine approach to yoga. And so there's a couple of questions that then arise to that, which is, again, for people watching this, and I get this too, yoga, oh, I can't do yoga, I'm not flexible. I hear that still so often, and I'm like, well, that's not the point of yoga. But so first of all, can you define, what's yoga? What is it?
Well, it's definitely not being flexible. Like, and I get why people say that, because all they see is pictures of people doing crazy poses or making triangle shapes with their body or whatever. But yeah, I think the reason why I've stayed in yoga for so long is that there is so much to it and I never get bored. So when you think, okay, I get it now, then something else opens up and you go, huh? What? I didn't know there was that as well, So yoga really is about realizing ultimately who you are and what this is all about. And that you're not separate from, even though it looks like and we are at a certain level. I'm over here, you're over there, and we have two bodies, and you can go, yes, we're separate, we're not joined, but on the deepest level, everything is consciousness, everything is one. So they say, in the Yoga Sutras, they would say, what is yoga? And yoga is this, it's union. It means union. It means everything is one. It's oneness. And what's been beautiful for me is really directly experiencing that, like knowing about it, hearing about it, reading about it, and then going into the practices and really, really experiencing it. And I think you have to experience it, even if it's just 1 second or 2 seconds, just to have that experience of, oh my God, I'm not just the body, I'm not just the mind, I am everything. And then you come back into the body. Do you know? That was amazing for me. And then to come back into the body and to, so this is something that I've been like the last few years, it's definitely been like, I am the body. I am the emotions, I am the mind, I am all of it. And there's no denial of like, in Advaita Vedanta or non-duality, they would be saying, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. Right. I am awareness. And yeah, yeah, it's just a different approach. And I think the more feminine approach is like being really real and honoring the body, honoring the earth, honoring the emotions, honoring the thoughts, they're all here for a purpose, and it makes it such a colorful existence, not just sitting there going, I am nothing. It's like that you can use that to avoid a lot of things in your life. So it's not my approach.
Yeah, Well, I totally resonate with you there, gotta say. Gosh, there's two things I want to ask now, and it's like, oh, which one should I go for? Which one should I go for? I guess I have to ask the other one. I'm going to do both, hopefully. I'm just kind of, aware of the time as well. But
Okay.
so, did you consciously at any point set out to, teach from a feminine perspective, create this yoga for women? Or was that something that then came through your own awareness and realizations in the process of your trainings and your teaching, and then sort of this kind of like aha moment of, oh, okay, this is quite a patriarchal structure? How did it come? Has it always been your intention, or was there a moment where that realization blossomed and then your practice took a different direction?
Yeah, it was quite strong actually. I was practicing Ashtanga, and very serious. I turned into a very serious yogini. I was like doing almost like 5 hours of practice a day. So 1.5 hours of breathing, and then about 3 hours of asana practice, postures, and it was actually too much, Now I look back, I was getting up at 5 a.m. thinking I was being a real, yogini. I'm gonna get somewhere. I'm gonna be something special with this amount of, or this is what I have to do to be able to teach or to know yoga. And anyway, it started to, I wasn't really listening to my body. I was more kind of, I'm not very disciplined at all. So I had to really, I know. So I had to really push myself to be disciplined, almost like, like forcing myself. And then once I was doing this morning practice, I kept doing it. But I wasn't listening to my body. So what happened is I got really drained. I became really thin and really dry and really heated inside, because I was doing a lot of strong breathing techniques, like all the pumping the breath and raising the energy and all of that. And it's a masculine approach. Yeah. It is a very, if we want to bring in feminine and masculine, it's a more masculine way of yoga has been given to us. And I didn't realize, I just thought that is yoga. And so I was doing all these techniques the way my male teachers were teaching me. And one of the male teachers, he was 80 years old, Indian man, lovely, absolutely lovely, Tawariji. But now I realize, I just don't know if that suits a 30-year-old woman. At the time, I was about 30, 38, who was, had just given birth, and it didn't suit me. I wasn't listening to my body. So I got very drained, and I started to look really old and really thin. And I was tired, and I went to speak to him, and he said, don't do. I was like, what? Well, I've got 5 hours of practice today. What do you mean don't do? And he, just maybe do like one pranayam, and I was like, one? Well, that would take me 10 minutes. And he was like, yes, off you go. Like, I'm not, that's it. And I was like devastated. I was like, what the hell? What does this mean? And everything fell apart at that point in my life. I didn't want to teach yoga anymore. My relationship with my husband, my lovely Thai husband, was falling apart. And before I knew it, I was on the other island, which is where I am now. And I was in a little bungalow. My marriage we'd separated, but we were here together, living on the same island, so we could look after our son. And that was amicable, and we both agreed to separation, and that was the best thing. I didn't have a job anymore, and I didn't have a house, and I'd left the car and everything. I was just here on the island going, oh, what just happened? You know, it's like the universe just picked me up and went, right, you're ready for the next. Yeah. And what happened, and this is the answer to your question, Shakti, is that I didn't realize how much I was like suppressing the feminine. I was doing all these masculine practices and it wasn't making me happy or healthy or balanced. When I got to this island, I just surrendered. I surrendered. I cried, and everything shifted. I started to suddenly be more interested in writing music again, or playing my guitar and writing songs and poems. And then I met people who were going to the Tantra school. We were learning about Tantra, and then we were going to fires in the evening. I'd be like looking up at the stars, and my heart started to open. I started to, like my feminine side came up really strongly, and I didn't even know it being suppressed, but suddenly I started to feel like a woman. And I had like my hair in little buns because I was like this little Ashtanga yogini with black leggings and a black top, and then suddenly I was like, oh, I just felt like a woman for not the first time, but for a long time. And we were doing amazing like dance rituals and all these like really beautiful sacred kind of things that I'd never been exposed to before. So I'm just having so many magical moments going, oh my God, where am I? And how did I get here? And I have to tell all women about this, like it's from the mundane to the magical is what it felt like. And so I got so excited and wanted to tell every woman in the planet. And then I started to, my practice was very soft because I couldn't do much because I've been frazzled by the 5-hour practice. And I didn't need to do that anymore. And I was looking into the energy and the chakras and exploring Tantra and the goddesses, the Mahavidyas. And it was such a magical time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. Again, I didn't know this, and it's just so fascinating to hear like the unfolding of the story and the revelations, and also loving how in your talking, it's how I want to say it's like yoga is everything, and it's life is spiritual, and so there's not this separation of we do this sacred practice and then we live, it's everything, like you were saying, from the mundane to the magical, and so everything is included, everything is relevant.
Yes.
And
yes. Exactly.
This is what you were saying. This is my other question that I was going to ask you, because you spoke about the non-dual approach not really resonating for you, and again, the importance of bringing things in and down, and the meeting like here in the flesh.
Yes.
And I guess for me that does lead on, because I guess I feel I have to ask you a little bit about this, but it's like, so we both know, so Agama is one place, or Agama, sorry, I always get the accent wrong. It's like this big yoga Tantra school on Copenhagen Island where there's this Swami, and there's been, multiple revelations of abuse. I've come from the Kundalini yoga tradition where revelations have come out only this year about, terrible, hideous, ongoing abuse, fraud, etc., etc. And these kinds of stories have been prevalent in the world of yoga, in the world of tantra, and even actually, I don't know if we want to, I don't want to talk about politics, but in a way there's stuff that's in the arena now as well, in the political sphere, about abuse and narcissism and lying and manipulation as well. So it's a theme
Yeah.
that's really up. So I just kind of wondering, what your insights have been through being in that world, through seeing it, experiencing it yourself, as a teacher, as a student, and like where you've landed up now.
Yes, it definitely went from the magical, the beauty of Tantra into the shadow side of Tantra. And I saw that in Agama. I didn't get too involved in Agama. I wasn't in the thick of it. And I stayed on the outside, looking in, witnessing a lot of the time. Because things didn't resonate with me and some things did. So I stayed with the things that resonated. And then I ended up in a relationship with a spiritual teacher who was teaching non-duality and also Tantra. And this is where I got to see the such a strong direct experience of shadow. And yeah, it was a very important experience, even though it was very hard and very disturbing and challenging to be in that kind of relationship, right in the thick of it. But it opened my eyes to how the world of shadow and how that happens in spirituality, and definitely with gurus and, as you say, politicians, and any place of power seems to be susceptible to this anyway. I didn't know about narcissistic personality disorder. I'd heard of the word narcissism, of course, and so every time somebody said narcissistic, I just thought they meant, grandiose or full of themselves, or,
Yeah.
But I didn't realize, and this is what this period of my life showed me, is that there is a condition, narcissistic personality disorder is, it is like how somebody operates from this place of, and it normally is, from early trauma, like severe trauma. This personality disorder operates, and the emotional body stays very young. And there's all sorts of techniques that are learned through in order to stay above people. Yeah. So with a lot of gurus, they find it difficult. There was a book on gurus called Feet of Clay, which was really interesting, and he looked into the common aspects between gurus, and he said most of them have been very lonely children, like they haven't had a lot of friends growing up as children, and they've kept themselves separate, and they've been quite traumatized and in a place of dissociation. So they haven't learned those skills of how to take criticism and how to relate to their friends or their peers, and you really learn that at school. It's quite tough, but it's something necessary for life. And so if you don't learn that, then you get to adulthood, and it's very difficult to be around like on equal level to people who are maybe criticizing you or putting you down. And so this psychologist was describing how the gurus have placed themselves on a pedestal, so they cannot be touched, or they think they can't be touched, and they've got people looking up to them and asking them for advice, and they feel in control. And how many gurus actually suffer from this condition, narcissistic personality disorder. And when I read, because I didn't know anything about narcissistic personality disorder, when I read later about all the different qualities that they have, qualities is probably not the right word, but you know what I mean, love bombing and gaslighting and compulsive lying and discard and all of this, I was like, wow, that is what's been going on. And I just couldn't work it out. I was so confused about, why is this man doing this, and I was trying to all the time like make out what was happening. When I read about this condition, I was like, okay, that's what that was. Yeah. And it's in everybody has, you can see it in yourself, but you can see it in, Trump is a classic. He's like 100%, 101% narcissistic personality. And then there's all different types. There's covert, there's malignant, there's all different shades. Some are very quiet and humble. Others are very grandiose and obnoxious, like Trump, But then you get your really lovely gurus who are like, oh, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And everyone goes, oh, aren't they just so sweet? And no, they're not. And this is the ones that are very shocking, where you can't quite believe that they would be abusing people behind closed doors. It's like, no, not him. It's not possible.
Yeah.
And there's also women with this, but I'd say it does happen to men more.
Yeah. And yeah, a lot of people who know me anyway know that I was in a relationship with similar personality disorder, so I understand completely. And I didn't even know it was a thing either, like you. I had no idea. So it took somebody else naming it for me to be like, oh, I didn't know there was such a thing. Oh,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
And that was like the route to my out. Actually, it's naming the thing. So it's not to blame, really. It wasn't to blame. It was just, without that information, it was almost like I didn't have the awareness or the agency to change anything, and I was blaming myself for everything that was happening. Even though I was being utterly destroyed, I was allowing it. I'm not going to blame anyone. I take full responsibility for stepping into that and stepping out of it. But naming it gave me, was part of my stepping away from it, to sort of see, oh, it's a thing, and this is what happens, and these are the behaviors, and that's why I felt so confused, and that's why I couldn't think straight,
Yeah.
So what I'm interested to hear from you is, I guess, why do you think, because it's been so prevalent, and look at you, you're an amazing woman. I'm an amazing woman. There are so many humble, devoted seekers out there. What makes us as human beings so susceptible to those strategies, those techniques, those behaviors? Why, what is it in us that makes us want to believe so badly that we fall for it? What is that in the human? What is it?
Yeah, really thinking that somebody else has the answers, which, well, you know, we grow up with teachers, we listen to others and they teach us and we learn things, you know. So I think at some stage, and I've definitely reached that stage, where you've accumulated enough knowledge and you've listened to so many teachers during your life, and I've just come to that stage now. I mean, my ex-partner, he wasn't my teacher, he was my partner, but he was other people's teacher. And he tried to be my teacher. He couldn't stop teaching. And I used to say to him, I'm your partner, I'm not your student. So but he found it very difficult to be on an equal level with anybody because of this condition. But it was really up to me, like it is up to us in the end, although that's very difficult when there's manipulation involved and abuse and gaslighting. You're not in that empowered place of clearly thinking and being able to, you know, listen to your own heart. But when I came out of it and realized what had happened, you know, that's where I was like, okay, no more. Like that, I've learned what that is, and I will never fall for that again. You know, especially the love bombing, which is one of the classic techniques. You know, and I think they do that because women love to be loved. Like we love a man coming along going, oh my God, I adore you. You know, who doesn't want to hear that? So of course I was like, wow, okay, great. You know, let's be together. Let's have, and I was open, I was vulnerable, I was excited. And I think that's just normal, you know. And yet I wouldn't fall for it again. I know what that looks like. If anybody's like really charming or really over the top, absolutely in love with you, and goes on about it and on about it, and then what you see happening is then they're cold, and you're like, huh, what's going on? This is really weird. Because they can't keep it up, you know, 24/7. So, and then the discard, and then the love bombing, and discard and love bombing, and then it just makes you go, it rattles you, you go all over the place, and then the control can happen and manipulation can happen. So I wouldn't fall for it again. I know why I fell for it this time, because I didn't have a clue that that's what was happening. And yes, I wanted love. Yes, I wanted a deep connection with somebody who adored me. And, you know, yes, I wanted all of that. Like, I think a lot of people do. But yeah, I've learned a lot. I can see how now I would just listen to myself first and foremost, like check in with my own heart. And I actually did say this to my ex-partner. I said, look, I'll listen to you and I'll, you know, you've got great things to share, but I'll check in with myself, my own heart, about how that feels. And if that feels right, then yeah, I'll do that. And that was very difficult to do all the way through the relationship, you know. It was very difficult. It was like a advanced training into staying in your own power.
Right. Absolutely. You know, and as you know, I'm teaching to that theme of like empowerment, of what is it to be authentically aligned and empowered as a woman, you know, not some fake idea of what it is, and not some trying to be like a man way of being, but truly, authentically being in your power,
Yeah.
And, you know, this whole question of teacher student, guru disciple has kind of come back again. The political situation is kind of showing it to me as well. It's like, you know, what does it look like? What does it feel like? When do I abandon myself? When do I check out? When do I give away power? When do I abnegate responsibility for what's happening in my life? And it is like, if you want to really, really kind of master that, it's like a constant checking in.
Yeah.
You know, again, going back in my own experience, can remember the red flags that I saw from the beginning and overrode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think you just have to learn those lessons, you know, like you never learn unless you override those red flags. You never really learn how to really notice the red flags, and like, you know, you have to make mistakes to really learn those lessons. So I feel it's, you know, it's okay. We have to kind of mess up and make mistakes and not listen properly, and then we really get it. Or maybe you have to go around a second time because you didn't really get it. And now you're going to really get it. Yeah, you know, it's like, for me, love, life is the guru. Like, there's no better guru than life itself and all that it brings you, because it knows what you need, and it, you know, that's nothing outside of yourself. It is ultimately what is inside. We can say life, we can call it many different names, but it's really, yeah.
Yes, hallelujah, totally. Again, yeah, amen to that. Wow. Yeah, and actually I think that's a really good place to end, because we could just go on forever. I think we need to do a second conversation to talk about medias and stuff, because we've covered a lot, and that was just a great, like, you just came out with a perfect quote there. So before I press end, I want to just give you the opportunity to just share your offerings, or how people can reach you if they want to find out more about what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Well, they can look at my website. It's LorraineTaylorYoga.com. And the next offering is really beautiful. It's called The Roots of Feminine Yoga.
Oh.
And it's all about how we can let go of all of this masculine or patriarchal way of that we've learned, all these techniques and the ancient texts, and what was before all of that came about and got implanted into our head. Like, what is the beauty and the simplicity and the nature, and we're all made out of the same stuff, the 5 elements, and, you know, let's look at that and let's make it very natural and very beautiful. And there's lots of self-care practices and very beautiful and easy yoga that feels really nourishing for the body.
Oh, is that live, or is it online? Is it both?
It's online. Okay. And then when COVID clears up, we'll be gathering.
Oh, that sounds so yummy. Oh, I can't wait to find out more. So everyone who watches this, I'll post a link underneath the video so you can find out more. Okay. So thank you, Lorraine.
Thank you, Shakti. Oh, it was really lovely. Thank you for inviting me.
Amazing.